soi-disant démocrates.
Whether you're a Democrat or not,
Comment est-ce qu'on peut
how can you impose democracy by killing millions of people?
C'est de la dictature, ça, ce n'est pas de la démocratie. Ça ne
It's a
s'impose pas.
dictatorship, not democracy. You can't impose it.
Ceux-là qui se disent démocrates, mais regardez, nous avons
Those who
vu des
call
scènes
themselves
où on a
Democrats
empêché
have
des
seen
gens de
scenes
rentrer
where
dans des
people were
assemblées.
prevented from joining
On a vu des
assemblies.
scènes où des forces ont débarqué dans des assemblées pour obliger.
We've seen scenes where forces landed in assemblies to force deputies to take texts.
Plus terrible que ça.
We've seen more terrible scenes where people kill their demonstrators. But they call themselves Democrats, and we're called Perseus.
Si c'est ça la démocratie, je répète.
If that's democracy, I repeat, we don't want this democracy.
Et quand vous voyez souvent les incompétents,
And when you see
ils ne
incompetence,
cherchent pas à savoir quelle est la signification.
they don't seek to know what the real meaning of the word democracy is.
À la définition qu'il lui a donnée l'impérialisme, et il se met.
They cling to the definition given to them by imperialism and start talking about democracy without really knowing the basics. That's incompetence.
Regardez le monde pour redéfinir la démocratie.
You have to know, look at the world to redefine democracy as we want it in Africa.
Les incompétents se cachent derrière les libertés.
Incompetence hides behind freedom. Remember, there is no individual freedom. It's a fact.
Bonjour à tous.
Hello guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Kindly for watching me for the first time, make sure you subscribe, like, share and comment. So guys, in today's video is about Ibrahim Traore, the youngest president across all over the world. He has come out and sending a warning to black people and Jamaicans. As we all know that Ibrahim Traore is the hard-working now president across all over the world. What he has done in Burkina Faso is very work that each and everybody can admire. He has built a hospitals, he has made education now free in Burkina Faso, he has made health sector really high. So kindly guys, let's watch this video until the end and then I'll come back with more reaction.
I would like to welcome all the young people from the 13 regions who are in the room and those who have not been able to access the room. To all the young people from Africa, to accompany the youth, welcome to the land of integral men. I would like to pay a vibrant tribute to our strong security and defense forces who fight day and night for Burkina Faso to be and remain beautiful. I would like us to take a minute to pray for those who are on the ground and also for the rest of the souls of those who have fallen for our country. Thank you. Thank you. Let us give thanks to God for allowing us to be here today to celebrate the International Youth Day in good health. I say this very often because human beings often forget God when they have no problem, when they are in happiness. But when worries come, this is when we remember God. Give thanks every day for the breath of life and for health. Youth from Burkina Faso, youth from Africa, youth, this phase of life where we have enough strength, enough energy, like the paraphrase, the slammer that has just passed. Youth is the time when we have spent enough time. We must take advantage of the time we have been given. Use the energy necessary to reach our goals, to change the world, to change our world, to change the world of others positively. Children want to grow up to be young. Older people want to grow up to be young. Everyone wants to be young. Youth is a blessing.
Alors profitez de la jeunesse pour faire œuvre utile.
So take advantage of youth to do useful
Voilà
work.
pourquoi quand je vois dans le thème choisi,
This is why when I see in the chosen theme, the first two words that come to mind,
intégration,
integration,
sécurité.
security.
L'Afrique fait face à de nombreux défis
Africa faces many challenges,
et on doit se poser des questions.
and we must ask
La
ourselves
jeunesse est-elle
questions.
un atout ou un handicap pour le développement des nations?
Is youth an asset or a handicap for the development of nations?
Et vous la savez. Les pays
The
développés
answer is simple and unequivocal, and you know
pour
it.
la plupart
Developed countries mostly have an aging population, and currently many countries have launched programs to rejuvenate their
pour accueillir
populations.
leur population. L'Afrique a cette chance d'avoir
Africa has this chance to have a very young population,
Mais pourquoi l'Afrique n'est-elle pas développée?
but why is Africa not developed?
Nous devrons donc nous pencher sur la question de comprendre pourquoi l'Afrique
We must therefore look at the question of why Africa has a young population and why it is not developed, and why developed countries seek to rejuvenate their populations.
Il faut que nous arrivions donc à transformer notre jeunesse en un véritable atout et un moteur.
We must transform our youth into a real asset and engine of development for our continent.
Pour ce faire, nous avons
To do this, we
besoin
need integration.
d'intégration. Nous avons besoin de sécurité.
We need security and development. We need to unite.
Certes, vous entendrez parler de
You will
l'Union.
hear about the African Union.
Oui, elle existe. Mais quelle
Yes,
est
it exists,
l'Union africaine?
but what is the effect of the African Union?
Nous ne pourrons pas parler d'intégration dans le thème.
We cannot
de ne
talk
pas parler
about
de l'Union
integration
africaine.
and not talk about the African
C'est
Union,
cette organisation qui devrait nous unir.
because it is this organization that should unite us,
Mais nous sommes au
create
regret
real
de
integration.
voir ces guerres qui persistent sur le continent africain.
But we regret to see this war that persists on the African continent, that kills millions of young people,
Et à la tête d'États pourvus d'armées.
and that this organization, which has the head of state provided with an army, cannot organize itself to support certain countries.
L'Union n'est pas juste un mot.
The Union is not just a word, the Union is a symbol.
Et nous jeunes devrions apprendre le
And we
sens
young
de
people
cette
should learn from this situation
pour faire de l'intégration une réalité.
to unite us to make
J'ai été
integration a reality.
désagréablement surpris lorsque l'Éthiopie, qui abrite donc
I was unpleasantly surprised when Ethiopia, which is the seat of the African Union,
et quand j'ai vu le Premier ministre se mettre en treillis,
experienced a conflict, and when the Prime Minister announced to close the university in Addis Ababa to face the threat,
l'action de l'Union africaine.
I did not see the action of the African Union to
Les
protect this
États
seat.
occidentaux, pour la plupart, voyaient Addis
Western
Ababa
states, for the most part, saw Addis Ababa fall, fold their backpacks, and leave.
L'Éthiopie s'est battue, a trouvé une solution
Ethiopia
interne.
fought, found an internal solution, and lives more or less in peace today.
Les enfants du Congo meurent.
The children of Congo have been dying for years.
Plusieurs autres conflits, tels au Soudan.
Several other conflicts, such as in Sudan, exist on the continent.
Nous aurions aimé voir l'Union africaine générer
We would have liked to see the African Union generate the strength and all the strategies necessary to support its states so that they can find peace.
Nous ne viendrons même pas parler de nous ici au Sahel.
We will not even talk about us here in the
Depuis
Sahel.
près de 10 ans,
For nearly 10 years, the Sahel has been the scene of international terrorism.
mais nous ne voyons aucun soutien.
But we see no support from these organizations to find a solution to this problem.
Pire, il y a quelques jours de cela, un pays
Worse, a few
étranger
days ago, a foreign country in Africa openly announced that it had supported and participated
soutenu et participé à une attaque lâche
in a
terroriste
cowardly, terrorist, and barbaric attack against the forces of our confederation.
L'Union africaine n'a pipé aucun mot pour condamner.
The African Union did not say a word to condemn this interference. The African Union did not say a word to condemn this interference of a foreign state in Africa in the internal affairs of our states. I would like them to hear this shout and get out of their silence and take action so that the youth can believe in the African Union. We must unite. The only way to unite is to talk to each other, to understand each other, and to be able to establish the basis of this unity. Young people, let me tell you that to unite, there are three words, three big screws that we must ban from our behavior and our lives. I am talking about cowardice, treachery, and incompetence. We must ban these three words from our way of life. I am going to explain why. Cowardice covers many screws. A coward is always afraid. And when we are afraid, we become slaves. We bend. We lick our boots. Our ancestors were not cowardly. And if we are cowardly, our children will ask us questions. Imagine that in Burkina Faso we refuse to fight and we accept to submit, to live in slavery. Tomorrow our children will grow up and they will ask themselves questions. Have our parents been cowardly to leave us in slavery? Whether we are alive or dead, we will feel it. Cowardice is afraid, and the imperialists have understood that they are trying to scare the leaders so that they become cowards. Because when you are a coward, all the other screws can be born. We do everything so that we are afraid. They come to our palaces. They threaten us directly or with veiled threats. Of course, we respond as it is necessary. They try to make us understand. They take examples every time. They tell us, you know, Thomas Sankara tried to do this, but he is dead. President Haitian tried to do this, but he is dead. Gaddafi tried to do this, but he is dead. These are words that we take in a veiled way to scare us. And we often see some young people trying to take our path in a different way. We can hear them say, such and such person ruled like this, he is in his country. Such and such person ruled like this, he is in prison. All this to try to scare us so that we become cowards. But I think they didn't understand one thing. When we say country or death, we win. It's not just a sentence. It's not just a sentence. It all makes sense. We are not afraid and we will never be afraid.
Ils ont fait peur sûrement à beaucoup de chefs d'État africains.
They probably scared a lot of African heads of state. They probably scared a lot of African heads of state. You see, often when we express ourselves or when we have the opportunity to be in certain situations abroad, we often say something to call on African heads of state to wake up and take care of our youth so that we can start our real development. So that we can start our real development. We are often misunderstood. Some have publicly opposed us. Some have publicly opposed us because they feel indexed. But I can assure you, youth, that when we find ourselves in the corridors, these same heads of state tell us that we are on the right track and that this is what needs to be done so that Africa can rise again. So we ask them questions like, why don't you do like us? Why don't you support us? Some tell us that they have the means, and some tell us that they can't. Dear elders, African heads of state, at the end of this podium, I would like to say that African peoples are the most peaceful, that African peoples are the most peaceful. When you recognize a wrong, you have to tell the people. When you recognize a wrong, you have to tell the people. We are not afraid to come out and tell the people we are sorry, we have been compromised, we have been mistreated, we have been compromised by several things, and we ask for forgiveness, and we come back on the right path, and to start working really for the independence of our states and our emancipation. And I think it is possible. If we remain in this posture of fear, we will be cowardly and history will judge us. Our children will ask questions. Our grandchildren will ask questions. We are writing history. There is no place for cowardice. If our ancestors had been cowardly, we would not be here. Do you remember? I will give you an example of the people of Bamileke and Bassa. I want to talk about the Cameroonians, the union of the population of Cameroon, which since the 1950s has started a relentless fight against the Poles, but they have been massacred. The French colonial armies, in turn, have dispatched infantry battalions, tanks, helicopters, have annihilated anti-village. The most inhuman tortures have taken place during this period. You can do research on what they call the cart or the bakasima. Hundreds of thousands of people have been decimated in Africa because they dared to ask their settlers to leave their land. A civil war that lasted several years. That is to say that people dared to face the imperialists with their bare hands so that we could be here. There is no reason why we cannot face the imperialists so that our future generations can live. There are many examples throughout Africa of brave men who refused to be cowardly, who fought, who faced. Well, let us be worthy of these people. We are their descendants, and let us be worthy of them. A coward cannot be worthy. Let us not be cowards, young Africans, because a coward is always a traitor. And it goes hand in hand. They will try to frighten us so that we become cowards. And if we are cowards, we will betray. We must ban the treachery of our habits. Africans have been traitors so that the slave trade succeeds in Africa. It is because Africans have been traitors that colonization has been able to sustain in Africa. Let us question history. We will see. Lumumba, Patrice Lumumba, was betrayed because he dared to hold his head. And these same beautiful televisions came to the Congo for a few bids extended to individuals in the Congo for an interview to please their population. And you were able to follow that. Lumumba bothered us. He is dead. We are happy. It is treachery. Many other heroes have fallen so that we are here today. And it is a technique of imperialism to frighten others by taking action to really create terror. It has not started today. I will give you the example of a warrior who fought, Victor Biakaboda. Read it and you will understand. He came from a family of chiefs. No chiefdom given by the colonizer. He was a worthy child. He studied in Senegal, I believe. He became a doctor in Guinea. And when the RDA was created, he went to the Ivory Coast region to fight against imperialists, against invaders, against the colonizer. He tried to organize the Ivorian society. Everywhere, people began to speak up. There was a general in his time, Pichu, who massacred the Ivorian population so that this spirit of freedom could never germinate. He continued his fight alongside FASO Lix Houphouët-Boigny. They fought, but the most violent was Victor Biakaboda. He represented a threat to the imperialists. What did he do? In addition to massacring the people who demonstrated, one night they killed him in an atrocious way next to Bois-Flancy. A few hours later, when the people of Dimbakro heard the murder, they marched, they demonstrated. They were massacred by the colonial army. History was killed. The facts are there. After his death, which scared FASO Lix Houphouët-Boigny, they called him and told him, if you continue the fight, you will meet the same fate. He was afraid and he joined imperialism. He was appointed minister in France and later he came to take the reins of the Ivorian Accord. They used him to eliminate many other people who dared to raise their voices. I think Thomas Sankara is a good example. If you are afraid, you will be cowardly and you will be a traitor. Never be afraid. The fight must continue. There are many other examples around the world. And there is this phenomenon that they have also used for a long time and that they continue to use. You see, some individuals, for example, have found themselves in other countries and created a so-called parallel government to the Malian government. You have heard this story. It is a technique that has existed for a long time. I will give you the example of Ahmed Chalabi, Iraq. This math teacher, who was even in the Iraqi government, was recaptured by the imperialists, and he formed this semblance of parallel government in Iraq, in the United States. And he was used to be the sheep of sacrifice, because it was to him that it was said that Saddam Hussein was developing weapons of mass destruction, and he did it. They used him, and this Talibi was used to kill millions of children in Iraq and destroy Iraq. And do you know what was the fate of Chalabi? One evening after an interview, he said that he knew that the CIA was on his back. A few hours later, he was found dead in his bed, dead of a heart attack. If you betray, you will have macabre endings. That's how it is. Imperialism has no friends. Imperialism uses you. And when it finishes using you, it does what it wants with you. Follow my gaze. You understand what I'm talking about. It has always been like this. The third vice that I invite you to leave is incompetence. I'm coming back to the word of the Islamist who walked on my tongue. Incompetence. You understand what I'm talking about. Incompetence is a very dangerous phenomenon that they use to destroy African society. In our administrations, there is a lot of incompetence. Let's recognize it. Incompetence have a lot of space next to imperialism. Because incompetence can take over the development of a country. Incompetence can lead you to doubt yourself.
Les incompétents aiment tout pour eux seuls.
Incompetents love ease. Incompetents love everything for themselves. Incompetents don't like those who are competent.
Ceux qui cherchent. Les incompétents
They don't like those who innovate,
sont
those who
dangereux.
seek. Incompetents are dangerous.
Lorsque vous êtes éclairé, l'incompétent ne vous aime pas.
When you are enlightened,
Lorsque vous voulez
incompetents
innover,
don't like
l'incompétent ne
you.
vous aime pas.
When you want to innovate, incompetents don't like you.
L'incompétent sait reconnaître celui qui est compétent et il va le combattre
Incompetents only recognize those who are
parce
competent,
qu'il a peur
and they will fight him until his last breath,
Cherchez
because
la
he is afraid of
connaissance.
those who are competent.
Cherchez la
Seek
connaissance
knowledge.
et travaillez.
Seek knowledge and
Travaillez
work.
pour être
Work
compétent.
hard to be competent.
Bannissez
Ban
l'incompétence.
incompetence.
Parce que, à travers les distractions
Because through distractions that we want to make us adopt,
adoptées, on devient incompétent.
we become incompetent.
Les réseaux sociaux sont les
I'll give you an example. Social networks are the places where information is published today.
s'informent à travers Internet et beaucoup de choses. Un jeune qui
People are informed through the
sur
internet.
les réseaux sociaux un article sur sa ferme,
A young man who publishes an article on his farm or an agricultural project or a scientific project may not have 1,000 views.
il n'aura pas peut-être 1000 vues.
But a young man who publishes on futility has millions of views.
Ce que moi j'appelle du n'importe quoi.
As the young slammer said, we want to waste your time on futility.
Justement, comme disait
Be
le jeune
aware.
slammer,
Let's
on peut
focus
faire
on
perdre
work
du temps
and
dans
seek
la
knowledge.
futilité.
Let's seek
Prenez
competence.
conscience. Intéressons-nous au travail.
It's good to be
Cherchons la
distracted,
connaissance.
but we must work first before being distracted. Seek knowledge, otherwise you'll waste your
Mais on
time
va
doing
travailler
nothing.
d'abord, avant de se distraire. Cherchez la connaissance, sinon vous perdrez du temps à ne rien faire. Et la jeunesse,
Youth is the time when you must use your time wisely.
il faut exploiter son temps à bon escient. Les impérialistes le savent.
The imperialists know this.
Ils vont multiplier tout ce qui est événement de distraction. Ils vont multiplier tout ce qui est
That's why they multiply all events of distraction.
travail pour que vous soyez des incompétents.
They multiply all events that can distract you from work so that you become incompetent. When you fall asleep, you choose the incompetent to lead the important structures. You have no choice but to fold. Let's not be incompetent. Let's seek knowledge.
Les incompétents se cachent souvent derrière des mots.
Incompetents often hide behind words. They use the terms democracy and freedom without realizing what they mean.
Camarades, la démocratie est un état d'esprit.
Democracy is a state of mind as much as youth is a state of mind.
Ces soi-disant démocrates,
Whether you're a Democrat or not,
comment est-ce qu'on peut
how can you impose democracy by killing millions of people?
C'est de la dictature, ça, ce n'est pas de la démocratie. Ça ne
It's a
s'impose pas.
dictatorship, not democracy. You can't impose it.
Ceux-là qui se disent démocrates, mais regardez, nous
Those who
avons vu
call
des
themselves
scènes
Democrats
où on a
have
empêché
seen
des gens de
scenes
rentrer
where
dans des
people were
assemblées.
prevented from joining
On a vu des
assemblies.
scènes où des forces ont débarqué dans des assemblées pour obliger
We've seen scenes where forces landed in
On a
assemblies
vu
to
des
force
scènes
deputies to take texts.
plus terribles que ça.
We've seen more terrible scenes where people kill their demonstrators. But they call themselves Democrats, and we're called Perseus.
Si c'est ça la démocratie, je répète.
If that's democracy, I repeat, we don't want this democracy.
Et quand vous voyez souvent les incompétents,
And when you see
ils ne
incompetence,
cherchent pas à savoir quelle est la signification du
they
mot
don't seek to
démocratie
know
en
what the
réalité.
real meaning of the word
Ils s'accrochent
democracy
juste
is.
à la définition qu'il lui a donnée l'impérialisme et il se met
They cling to the
démocratie.
definition given to them by imperialism and start talking about democracy without really knowing the basics. That's incompetence. You have to know, look at the world to redefine democracy as we want it in Africa.
Les incompétents se cachent derrière les libertés.
Incompetence hides behind freedom. Remember, there is no individual freedom. It's a fact.
C'est un fait.
Do you really think everyone is free? Freedom is collective. As long as we live in a society with rules, freedom is collective.
Avec des règles, la liberté est collective. Parce que si vous ne respectez pas les règles,
Because if you don't respect the rules, you can't live in society.
si vous êtes libre de parler comme
If you're free to speak as you please, the other is free to answer as he pleases. That would be disorder.
ça sera du désordre. Si vous êtes libre de
If you're
rouler dans
free
la
to
rue et
walk
de
the
passer
streets
le
and
feu
pass
rouge
traffic
comme vous
lights
voulez,
as you
l'autre est
please,
libre de passer aussi et de vous cogner.
the other is free to pass by and
Vous
hit you.
comprenez que si
You understand
la
that if
liberté
individual
individuelle prend
freedom
le
takes
dessus,
over,
nous sommes
we are
dans
in
une
a society of disorder.
Voilà pourquoi il y a des règles dans la société.
That's
Les
why
règles,
there are
tout le monde
rules
doit
in
les
society,
respecter. Et là, on parle de liberté collective.
and everyone has to respect the
Donc,
rules.
certains se donnent le droit de parler de leur liberté individuelle.
That's why we're talking about collective freedom. Some people have the right to speak about their individual freedom, but they don't care about others. I think that's also part of incompetence,
Ils s'arrogent les droits que peut-être les États les ont donnés.
because they don't try to understand. They make up the rights given by the states to serve and do everything for themselves, neglecting the freedom of others.
On pense à la liberté d'autrui.
No, freedom is collective. Before we act, we think about the freedom of others, and we shouldn't transcend the freedom of others. So we need to have a reserve. And once we have a reserve, individual freedom doesn't exist. Freedom is collective, and we need to have this culture of collective freedom.
Cherchons donc la connaissance, lisons.
So let's seek knowledge, let's read, let's interrogate history. Don't read the history they wrote in their favor.
Cherchez la connaissance à travers plusieurs sources et vous comprendrez.
Seek knowledge through several sources, and you will understand in history who fought for Africa, how we must fight to continue this struggle of our ancestors.
Et je ne terminerai pas mes propos sans faire.
And I won't finish my words without making a statement about communication.
Parce que comme je le dis, c'est l'arme fatale de l'impérialisme. Et vous jeunes,
Because, as I said, it's the fatal weapon of
pour
imperialism.
savoir distinguer le vrai du faux.
And you young people, you must do everything to distinguish the true from the false. We will continue to dismantle the lies of imperialist media that always try to create problems in Africa.
Par leur bouche, ils peuvent vous rendre un roi demain.
Because these media, through their mouths, can make you a king tomorrow.
Et vous rendre
Through their mouths, they can make you leave your position as king and make you a poor slave tomorrow. Pay attention.
Je suivais une émission, malheureusement, il n'y a pas longtemps, burkinabé, où un jeune
I was
journaliste
following a
a sorti une
program,
phrase.
unfortunately not long ago, in Burkina Faso, where a young journalist released a sentence that left me a little perplexed.
Il meurt de faim en Corée du Nord. A-t-il pris le soin d'aller en Corée du Nord enquêter pour voir vraiment s'il meurt de faim?
He was talking about North Korea, and the journalist said, "But he is starving in North Korea." Has he taken care of going to North Korea to investigate to see if he is really starving? Since imperialist media have sold North Korea is more developed than many European countries. And because these media tell us that North Korea is a dictatorship, people are starving, they are poor, they have nothing, we take it here. But North Korea is a nuclear power. How did they do it? Let's pay attention to communication. We must not blindly follow these lying media that only try to divide Africa. It is logical. They fight for the interests of their people. And the interest of their people is that Africa is divided. So, young people of Burkina Faso, young people of Africa, we must unite. We must ban cowardice. We must ban incompetence. We must ban treachery and all the risks in our society. We have the opportunity to speak. We thank God for these opportunities that we have each time to speak, to raise awareness. And I invite you to spread the word, to get to work so that the Africa that we want, self-sufficient in terms of food, is a reality. so that the Africa that we want for harmonious development is a reality. Let me finish because I return to your theme. There is no peace and security without development. The two go hand in hand. If there is no development, there is no security. Because if there is no development, the youth will inevitably find themselves in the vice and there will be no security. If there is no security, there is no development. So the two must go hand in hand. Let's integrate this in our fights so that we can fight and develop. Let's go towards production. Let's produce enough. Let's transform our raw materials so that they are beneficial for our populations and in terms of exportation. I wish you a very good day of reflection on the chosen theme and also on the essential role of youth in this fight. Good luck to all. May God make sure that all those who have made the trip return home in good health and that we can meet again when we wish it by the grace of God. La patrie ou la mort. Thank you.
I took office 2.5 years ago as a dumb, ignorant family physician coming from Murfreesboro, Tennessee. I had no idea what I was going to be doing in Washington. As a matter of fact, I actually felt kind of funny and silly, thinking me, a medical doctor, can be a diplomat. But be it as it may, singularly, the one thing, I came here, by the way, with no plans of staying. I was coming here top 6 months. After 6 months, look at my husband, honey, I tried, it didn't work out. Look at the chairman of the African Union who had appointed me. Thank you, Madam Zuma, it was great, but I could not do it. But 5th month into this position, one issue that kept coming to me and became very apparent was the disrespect for the African. I knew it existed, I just didn't understand the depth and the profoundness of it. And not only that, as I began to understand it even deeper, I began to also understand its economic implications when it comes to how we are perceived on the world stage, how this simple fact of simply disrespecting the African had serious implications and is at the root cause of why Africa is not able to move forward. And as I went and tried to understand and dig further to say, what is it about us as black people around the globe? Why is it that we are so disrespected no matter where you go? And I often say, was there a memo sent out to say wherever you go, if you are not a black person, you see a black person, you're automatically superior to them and you have a right to disrespect them? This memo did not miss anybody. It went to non-black people, but here's the real shocker. It also went to us black people to say, accept that you are inferior. You automatically take an inferior position. And I'm going to have to tell you something that has become a realization that and this is where I am stuck as I try to understand, how did this message just go through and percolated so through? Now we are on automatic pilot. It's almost as if we've undergone a genetic mutation. We don't even have to be told. We pass it on to our children. Have you ever wondered, of all the colors on earth, why were 2 colors chosen? Black color and white color. Follow me on this one. You take a white color, you associate it with Jesus Christ. You associate it with the angels. You associate it with purity and everything wonderful and everything desirable. And then you take a race that's not even white and you say you are white. Yes. And then you take another color. You associate it with the devil. You associate it with everything undesirable. I've never seen a bank robber wearing a white mask. All the villains on movies are black. Everything undesirable is black. And then you take another race that are not even black and say, you guys, you are black. Yeah. Now go at it. Speak, my sister. As we black mothers are trying to raise our children in our own homes, as much as we try to tell them that you're black and you're beautiful, guess what? The minute they step outside the door, the messages are completely different. A barrage of subliminal messages telling our children that that which you represent is horrible. How do we fight against that? How do I tell my granddaughter that you're black and beautiful, but the world tells her otherwise. The voices echoing her blackness as a symbol of everything undesirable are much, much louder than even we black mothers, we come together, we can never drown those subliminal messages. They were all by design. Let me take you to the beginning. Certainly for Africa, your continent. Because as we gather here today, as we try to strategize, as we try to create those linkages between those Africans away from the continent and the Africans on the continent, we must understand, how did we get here? And for Africa, it starts with that monumental decision when the colonizers, came together in Berlin in 1884. And let me say, prior to 1884, they were coming to Africa in a haphazard way. They had started with slavery. And then when they felt like they needed the slaves to stay on the continent, they say, oh, we no longer believe in slave trade. Let's stop it. No. It was really just another way of saying the labor is needed on the continent. Let's keep the monkeys on the continent so we can continue to exploit them. So 1884, they met in Berlin to organize themselves so they can effectively loot from the monkeys. They did not meet in Berlin to see to it that Africa would prosper. No. Let me repeat. The colonizers met in order to see to it that your Africa, our Africa, and her children, not only on the continent, are forever defeated and dominated. That was 135 years ago. The manner in which they did it, they took out the map of Africa while the Africans were sleeping, minding their own business. Started to chop up your continent into the tiny little countries that we see today. The bigger and more powerful a kingdom was, the more countries that came out of it. Not only more countries, but these countries were given to different colonizers who spoke different languages. Let me bring it home for a second. Pretend you're driving from Zambia, you're speaking English. Pretty soon you are in Angola, you're speaking Portuguese. Then DRC, French. Equatorial Guinea, Spanish. Southern Cameroon, French. Southern Cameroon, English. Northern Cameroon, French. You are now in Nigeria, English. Hello. These were the same people. Prior to 1884, we were powerful, amazing kingdoms with well-established educational and religious systems. If the truth be told, we had the civilization. We were the civilized. They were the devils, the uncivilized ones. They set out to take everything that symbolized civilization in Africa. To this day, they're still refusing to give up those relics. If those relics were not that good, why are you keeping them? We were way ahead of them in our civilization. They set out to destroy us. And Berlin Conference put the nail on that coffin. So they gave Djibouti the same sovereignty as the United States. They gave Burundi the same sovereignty as China. They gave Togo. You see, the EU realizes individual little countries, they can't survive on the world stage. So they come together as the European Union. Now picture this now. So they cut up this Africa into the tiny little countries, small economies that could never survive on their own, but gave them the same sovereignty as the big boys. So that way, when the little bitty countries go to the world stage for the purposes of development and discussing trade, they're wannabe boxers who are being thrown into the heavyweight boxing ring every day. How do you put China in the same boxing ring with Eswatini? Eswatini has 1.2 million people. China has 1.4 billion people. And you put them on the same stage and say, go at it, negotiate. Are you with me?
Yes.
This is insanity of the highest order. How have we allowed this carnage to go on? When Eswatini is thrown in the same boxing ring with China and Eswatini collapses before Eswatini even gets on the stage, the world says, well, Eswatini, what's wrong with you? Why can't you take care of your people? Well, China came in and said, Eswatini, give me all your gold or else. And if Eswatini does not agree, they just go on next door to Lesotho and give Lesotho an extra $1. And if Lesotho doesn't take it, they just jump on to Togo, Central African Republic. It was all by design. 1884. They did something else in addition to chopping us up. They also set out to make the African believe that everything African was bad and undesirable, and everything Western, particularly French and British, was more desirable. We call that the legacy of colonization. Prior to that, they had started long working on the slaves. Make them think everything about them, forget anything about Africa. Where you come from is a horrible place, diseased and dying people, constantly at war with themselves, uncivilized. Cut out any communications with them. You need to just know what we tell you. And we call that the legacy of slavery.
Welcome back. Hope you have watched a very, very powerful message from Ibrahim Traore, the youngest president in world now. He had sent a warning to United States Donald Trump and also the black Americans and Jamaicans. As we all know that Ibrahim Traore is really hard-working president now in world, and he's the most loved president across all over the world. But he is the loved because of his work and what he's fighting for we as the Africans and also the Caribbean. Because Ibrahim Traore is now the champion of peace and unity among we as African. He has come out and united all the Africans, and they want all Africa to unite it and rally behind each and everybody. Because he has seen that most of the West country is discriminating we as the African and also the Caribbean. So that's why he has come out and sending a warning to Donald Trump and also people across the Caribbean and we as African. Because number one thing is about for those who are watching that for the first time, Ibrahim Traore, this is some of the progress that he has done in his country. Number one is about the education. So Ibrahim Traore has made education now free in Burkina Faso. There's no any from primary to tertiary. Education is now free. Students are learning free. You cannot ever find any country that is providing education is free now. And another thing about the health sector, recently he launched a very, very powerful hospital. That hospital is the biggest hospital across all over the Africa. There's no any country that has in Africa that has a hospital that is being built in Burkina Faso. So this means that this guy is really doing the work. He has opened up roads. We have seen a lot of clips, roads being built in Burkina Faso. Roads has been built across all over the Burkina Faso, and people are really enjoying. He has opened up the business. You see, when you build a roads, a lot of now investors will come to your country, and the investor will really reaches the farmer, because a lot of cartels are on the way, which normally blocks the farmer from reaching those investors. So he has opened up the roads, and people are enjoying now in Burkina Faso. And another thing is about this what we call colonialism. What is Ibrahim Traore is fighting for Burkina Faso and also for Africa is about the colonialism. We see that this colonialism has been affecting we as African for so long, and these people, when they come to a country, they colonize and they take out your resources. And what Ibrahim Traore did in Burkina Faso, he he expelled all the military troops in France, military troops who were camping in Burkina Faso, and then he chased away the France colonialism. By now in in Burkina Faso, there is no any colonialism in Burkina Faso. The country is now free and it has now the full independent. People are enjoying democracy. Now the democracy is really working in Burkina Faso, because we Africa, we were given the fake democracy, because that democracy is not helping we as the black people, but it's benefiting those West countries. And that's the message that normally Ibrahim Traore normally delivers for we as African, to have the unity among us, because the only thing that these people fears is about the unity. That's why when they came to Africa, they during the colonialism, they divided us. They divided us among we Africa, so that you can find the France who colonize such region, you can find Britain colonize such region, you can find Germany, Belgium, such region. And that's unity that those people have. So they don't want us to be united, because they see that when we united, we will be very strong, because unity is power. So they don't want to see us united, they want us to divide us. That's why. And normally our leaders are just a pupil to them. So these people, they don't want a visionary leader, they don't want a leader that can stand up and speak, they don't want a leader who can listen to him. They want a leader that can be used against stealing our resources. We know we Africa will just largest manufacturer of these natural resources. A lot of natural resources in Africa, but you find that these resources is not really benefiting the real people of Africa. These resources is just taken outside from Africa and building the economy of those countries. Those countries cannot survive without Africa, because when you go to United States, those countries cannot survive without Africa. Our resources is being used in their country, driving the economy, and that's what Ibrahim Traore is about it. You guys leave us with our own resources, let's build our own resources, because those education, those health sector has been built by the natural resources of Burkina Faso. There's no anything. Now people are not paying tax. They are enjoying the freedom of Burkina Faso. And that is the message that Ibrahim Traore delivered to the people of we as African, and also the those West countries. So kindly bye for now. See you later. And kindly, if you haven't subscribe to this channel. I'll be bringing more updates concerning this issue. Bye for now.